Ask me how I like my coffee. Just like I like my humor. Strong, black, and Irish. The Irish part adds a little giddy up to the coffee. Need that giddy up. They call me Diesel because I need to lubricate all the parts to keep the machine operating. And the lube of choice happens to be Jameson, that great Irish whiskey, direct from the bogs of Ireland, the essence of the gods. Great lubrication. Yes. Let's have a little coffee. Oh, that's good. That's good. Let's take a little road trip. Talking about the old days, the Beanery, the GM&O rail yard down by Glen Station. The GM&O Railroad, Gulfmobile in Ohio, that is, had a local station on 49th and Merrimack. There was back in the day, I'll say that the train crews, the engineers and the conductors on the freight trains had hours of service limitations, so they could only go like 10 hours. Then they had to take 8 hours off and rest. So the Beanery was a bunkhouse for these train crews, and it was a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week restaurant, usually run by what were called back in the day hobos, or independent travelers. Back in the day, a lot of guys traveled by trade across the country and camped out in the woods right next to the rail yards. And you'd have to be careful of the railroad dicks too, because they were always harassing us kids. But the GM&O Railroad was bought out by the Santa Fe, and then it was bought out by the ICG, then it was bought out by the Canadian National. So now it still is a train stop for the Metra commuter service. Amtrak doesn't stop there anymore. The Beanery is long gone, but it has a certain romantic place in our hearts. Two of my brothers work for the GM&O. One as a Gandy dancer, and the other as a yard clerk. Now, a Gandy dancer was a guy who laid the rails down and the ties and pounded in the spikes. They did all this work by hand in the old days. Very laborious, intense job. There was no equipment. They did everything by hand. And my brother Matt, who was a yard clerk, would have chalk. They'd mark the cars, and this was a switching yard where they would make trains going through It was a very busy yard when we were kids growing up. We would walk along the tracks looking for metal that fell off, spikes, different rusted things we'd collect. Um, there was always corn growing along the side where it, and other seeds that fell off the hopper cars that would go through. And there was a swamp down there too, where we had a rusty cement tub that we used as a boat, and would go fishing in the swamp, catch snakes and tadpoles, bring them back to our pool in the backyard. Cattails were growing all over, and there were various kind of like mountains, old excavations. I guess it was kind of a dump area also. But as we were walking along the tracks as kids, we always had to be careful of the railroad dicks. They had a little office around Oak Park Avenue, and they were very careful to shag us kids out of there. The Beanery, though, was a very kind of romantic spot where you can go in there, drink a strong black coffee, rub shoulders with the hobo guys, and they had swivel seats where you could kind of spin around. Later on, as we were growing up, we and our crew would go out drinking all night, and then we'd go with the birds down to the Beanery and have some coffee and try and get sobered up before we'd go home, 5 or 6 in the morning. Good times, good times. Yeah, right across from the Beanery, there was a turntable where they turned the engines around in a circle and put them going in a different direction, and a maintenance shack was right there where they would like do maintenance on them, clean them, etc., etc. And it was an interesting spot to grow up in. Later on in life, it was always a kind of romantic spot for all of us to go down. Let's go to the Beanery, get a cup of coffee, or get some scrambled eggs down there. Great spot. Later on, our family had like a dining excursion group when we go out to experience different restaurants in Chicago. And we called our group the Beanery Barons. One of my brothers was a writer for the Quincy Herald-Whig, and he would record all of our experiences at these various restaurants. One of our favorites was always the Parthenon in Greektown. It was a great family hangout where we would have gyros and lovely saganaki and tremendous drinks. They had the house wine they made down the basement come in a red carafe. And if you're waiting in line to get a table, the maitre d' would bring a little shot of ouzo along, and it would have 2 ice cubes in it, and as soon as you put the ice cubes in it, it would change color to pale white. And if you were waiting in line 10 minutes, you could have all the ouzo you wanted. If you were waiting in line 2 hours, you have all the ouzo you wanted. So you were very liberally motivated once you sat down to a table and had some saganaki and good gyros. Tremendous restaurant. One of my favorite spots was down on Taylor Street, Al's, for a good Italian beef sandwich with sweet peppers, right across from Mario's lemonade stand. Tremendous little place. Fun and games. Taylor Street was an Italian neighborhood that was decimated and destroyed when they put in the expressway, and then they built UIC School, and it took out most of that neighborhood in Maxwell Street, the Jewish neighborhood, which was right next door. My Uncle Jimmy Barati had a tavern over there, and we would go over there on Sundays for my Aunt Joe's wonderful Italian cooking, mustacholi with the red sauce and all this stuff. And we'd be roaming around. It's like a 3-flat building, go down to the bar. My Uncle Jimmy would have a wad of $100 bills. One of his side jobs was collecting for the Bartenders Union. And one of his other side jobs was driver for Tony Accardo. So he was pretty well connected. And he didn't have to worry about his retirement at all, except getting there. My mother worked as a waitress at this very nice restaurant, the Log Cabin at Archer and Pulaski. And the two owners, Bonds and Ollie Pustelnik, would say, "Oh no, your brother-in-law's coming to collect for the Bartenders Union." They had like one old man bartender, but they had to pay union wages, or else, poof, their restaurant would be kind of smoky, you could say. Anyway, the Beanery was one of our favorite spots, and it's not there anymore, unfortunately. Glen Yards is still there, so I might go down and take a metro train downtown. But you could always go to Taylor Street, go to Big Al's, get a good Italian beef sandwich with sweet peppers or gianera, all that Italian hot stuff. Good food. Think I'll do that. Wander over to downtown Taylor Street. See you later, alligator.